Welcome back to Swordbox. We're doing a series on faith. I'm glad you joined us. Let's check out our verse for today. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. Matthew 14:25. And again, we're still talking about faith. Most of you, if you ever went to Sunday school or spent any time in church, you've heard about the story of Jesus walking on the water. And I'm going to read that story to you, starting in Matthew chapter 14, verse 22. And it says, "Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent the multitude away, he went up on the mountain to himself pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, 'It is a ghost.' And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, 'Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid.' And Peter answered him and said, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' So he said, 'Come.' And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, 'Lord, save me.' And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him, and said to him, 'O you of little faith, why did you doubt?' And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those who were with him in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" I just want to point out a few things of this story. You know, Jesus was doing the supernatural. I mean, I don't know of anybody that can walk on water. Jesus is the only one outside of Peter that I ever have heard of walking on water, or even really attempting to. Second thing I want to point out to you is Peter, what he was requesting of God to come walk on the water with him wasn't a bad thing. Peter wanted to be with Jesus. Peter saw Jesus doing something, and he wanted to do what Jesus was doing, and he wasn't afraid to ask Jesus to do the supernatural. And you know what? Jesus gave him permission. And so then we see Peter stepped out of the boat in faith. There were a lot of people in that boat, but Peter was the only one that asked God to come out, and he was the only one that actually stepped out of the boat. You got to remember, this is during a storm. I mean, the boat's being tossed all over the place. So this wasn't just stepping off to a nice smooth lake, which would be crazy in and of itself, but you're talking to a storm where if you fall in that water, more than likely you're going to drown. So it took a lot of faith for what he did. And you know what? Peter got to walk on the water, not because he had the skills or the power, but because he trusted the word of Jesus to come, and he exercised his faith. So that was just an awesome thing that we saw Peter do. But just like for us, when we take our eyes off Jesus, Peter took his eyes off Jesus, and he began to look at the storm and the circumstances around him. He began to feel the wind, and he became afraid. And as we all know, fear is an enemy of faith. And fear can just keep you from doing anything. Fear is what kept most of the people in the boat, I'm sure. But you know what the great thing is even when he lacked the faith to continue and started to sink, Peter knew what to do. He cried out to Jesus, and Jesus saved him. You know what? We're going to mess up too. Even when we step out in faith sometimes, we may step in the wrong direction, or we may get going and we may fall down. But don't be afraid to get out of the boat when Jesus tells you to come. And when we do fall, remember, just cry out to Jesus. He is always there for us, and he's not going to punish us for trying to follow him. There's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. There's going to be some falls. We're going to get wet. But we get back up. Jesus will pull us back up. But we just keep putting our faith back in. We keep trusting in him. And I hope you will keep coming back here. Let me minister to you. Let me give you the word of God. God bless you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. We'll continue to talk about faith.